somebody said this, but you make money in real estate, by solving problems. And that's essentially what I'm good at, right? Is diagnosing the problem and being able to guide the team to get to the solution. And so I found, my skill set in project management, just valuation analysis, and all these different things have applied very well.
Welcome, everyone, to the Road Less Traveled show. This is a show all about people that were successful in an earlier career and chose to go down a different path. I'm your co-host, Richard Coyne.
And I'm your co-host, Bill Zahller. On today's show, we have Kent Ritter. He's managing partner at Birge Held. Hello, Kent. How are you?
Hey, doing well, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Yeah, glad to have you. Yeah. So, Kent, just to get started then, can you tell us a little about yourself? What was your former career and how many years were you in that?
Sure. So I started prior to doing what I do now, is invest in real estate. I was a management consultant, did that for about 12 years. And really what that meant was I flew all over the country helping large organizations solve their big problems. So they would, they came up with something or an issue that they couldn't resolve themselves. They would hire my firm. We would come in, we would help analyze the problem, figure out the solution, and then help them go ahead and implement it. So, it was a lot of fun, learned a ton. I heard somebody say once that every year being a consultant is something like 4 years in the industry, because all you're ever doing is solving problems. Nobody ever calls you when things are good. And so I think it was a great way to just understand, how organizations work, see a lot of different organizations, kind of really distill over just a lot of examples, like what works and what doesn't, and why do some organizations succeed and why do others fail. So it was really interesting time spent.
Actually, that's fairly similar to my early career. I actually worked for one of the big six at the time, then four, whatever it was, management consulting companies, and I spent kind of first half of my career in the world of working for others, in that space pretty much. And then I moved to the software world, where I was still really doing consulting and leading practices, et cetera, going out, solving problems for customers, but really from kind of within, so our customers were people that owned our software product. But again, it was a lot of fun. And you're right about the great experience. I mean, I've worked all over the country, and met a lot of great people on the way. Yeah. So it's pretty exciting. And again, I really grew to love that kind of concept where you're seeing new challenges all the time, new clients, new cities, new experiences. So yeah, a lot of fun.
Yeah. I mean, that was what drew me to it initially. I had an internship as an accountant in college, and because I was a double finance and accounting major, and about 2 weeks in that internship, I knew that accounting was not for me. And so I knew that sitting in a cube behind the same desk, doing the same thing over and over again, was not going to make me happy. So I think finding a career like consulting, where you get a lot of different perspectives, new projects, new challenges, definitely kept it interesting. And it was a fun run. And, toward the end of the run, a few partners and I left the firm that we were at, started our own firm. So about the last 5 years of that career, we were actually running our own boutique consulting firm. We had we grew it in 5 years to about 95 employees. We were doing about 30 million in revenue annually. And so we grew a nice sized little firm, and then exited that at the end of 2015. And that's really what set me off on my real estate career, was taking that capital from that exit and starting to invest. And the rest is history.
Very nice.
Yeah, and to that, just follow up a little bit more on the real estate side. So you've transitioned from the consulting into the real estate. Can you tell us a little bit about that? And it seems like it's an excellent background from problem solving, and kind of goes hand in hand with real estate. So it's like a good history.
Yeah, I found that my background as a consultant has been very, very applicable to real estate investing, especially the larger scale real estate investing. Which is what I do. Focusing on large apartment acquisitions and renovations. And you make money. This isn't my quote. Somebody said this, but you make money in real estate by solving problems.
Mm-hmm.
And that's essentially what I'm good at, right? Is diagnosing the problem and being able to guide the team to get to the solution. And so I found, my skill set and the skill set gained over the, time being a consultant from project management and just valuation analysis and all these different things have applied very well.
Right.
Yeah, that's so true, Kent. I mean, again, from my world, I was, kind of on the business side, then moved up as I grew in this world of consulting. I kind of moved, I gradiated myself, or more toward the project management side. And I wound up, getting a PMP, and I actually still hold it today. And I found that it's, the thinking about the different disciplines that need to be part of how you do things has been very, very helpful in real estate. Absolutely. I think about it, so I leveraged some of those skill sets I grew up with, doing for clients in the real estate world all the time. Yeah, absolutely. So Ken, can you think of, is there, in your, consulting career, was there something along the way that was just kind of a funny story that you can share with us, that's something that made you kind of ask yourself, why am I doing this?
Yeah. I mean, there's probably so many client stories where you just see stuff and you're just like, oh man, like, come on guys. But the story that I will share is more internal. When we were starting out our own firm, I mean, it literally was like, 5 guys sitting around a kitchen table in somebody's apartment. We were using their second bedroom as our kind of call room where we could go and take phone calls, sitting on the bed. And, we ran that way for quite a while, or for at least I think the first year. And then, we got to the point where we're saying, okay, we should probably get an office, but do we want to take on the expense, yada, yada. Well, the thing that really pushed us over the line was we're always at this guy's house, and they had some Girl Scout cookies in the freezer. You put the Thin Mints in the freezer, right? Everybody knows those are the best. So we went through and cashed the whole box, or a couple boxes, I think, of Thin Mints, cleared the house out of Girl Scout cookies. Well, his wife came home, not too happy to find that we had eaten all the cookies in the house. And that was the last straw. She's like, you guys got to get out of here. You guys got to go get an office. So we, set us off on our first office, and that really got us started. And we were like, moved from the kitchen table basically into a same size table in the middle of a room that we were now renting as our first office.
Right. That's fun.
Oh yeah. Well, Kim, what was one of the deciding factors to make you pivot and do the change from your original consulting to get into real estate? Was there one point that just made you decide that was the right time to do it?
Yeah, so there was a couple things. I mean, one definitely was selling the business. I had a period of time where I had to go and work for the firm that we sold to. But what I was really passionate about was growing our own business, not necessarily at that point in my career, the actual client work. I'd been doing that for 10, 12 years at that point. I've kind of seen it and done it, but it was about growing our own business. So once we sold that, really lost that piece of what drove me. The other big piece of it was just my family. And, like Richard, like in that consulting life, when you're on the road all the time, traveling every week, not home a lot. And so we had my first child. I have 3 now, but when we had our first, really got me thinking, what kind of dad do I want to be? And I started looking at the folks that were doing the same thing as me, and maybe 10, 15 years ahead of me. Started asking them questions, how do you manage it? How do you manage the family? And the answers I got just were, to be honest, were just like sad. We're just like, oh, well, my kids don't really want me around anyway. Or, oh no, I just all this stuff. And I was just like, man, that's not who I want to be. I don't want to be that. I want to be able to be the father I want to be there for my kids. I want to be able to go to their games and recitals and all this stuff. So I set out to find a path that would allow me to have that freedom, and have that freedom of my time, and allow me to be present for my family and my kids. And, that's where I saw real estate as a great opportunity, because you can invest in real estate and you can have passive cash flow, and you don't have to trade your time for money, right? So now I have the flexibility to, it was really nice yesterday. So, and it's really nice today actually. So I can knock off at 3 o'clock if I want to and take the kids to the park, or, do whatever I want to do. And so that was a big thing for me. It was just, being the type of really father that I wanted to be, and make sure that I was there for my kids and my family.
Yeah, that's so important. And yeah, when I started in my career, same thing. My wife and I made a decision that she was going to be a stay-at-home mom because I was on the road, and that way we'd have some, at least good continuity in terms of the parental care, somebody being there all the time, that type of thing. But again, I was fortunate in my career as I there were certainly points when I was gone all the time, but later on, I was able to change into a role where I was home more, even though I stayed in the consulting side, because I was running the practice. I was running the, the regional territory, that type of thing. And, the travel was more occasional. But again, you got to make those family choices and do what's right for your family. So, yeah.
Yeah, same for my background also, with aviation, that obviously involves quite a bit of travel, flying around the world. So yeah, definitely another decider to get, back command of your own time. So yeah, it's also problem solving just at 500 knots, but yeah, same kind of scenario.
Yeah. My problems weren't usually life or death. So at least had that going for me.
Right. So Kent, is there, as you were changing into your new world of working on the real estate path and things like that, were there some obstacles along the way that you had to kind of overcome?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of obstacles. I already considered myself an entrepreneur, right? But but I was moving into a field that was brand new, right? Coming in and trying to scale up very quickly, and something that's quite complicated. So there was a knowledge gap, right? So I had to spend the time and effort educating myself. It was kind of for a long time, I was working really two jobs. I'd be up at 5, working on real estate before I had to, clock in for the W-2. And then after that, working after hours, a few hours a night from real estate. It's one is just the practical piece of just burning the candle at both ends, and how long can you do that? The other was more about, I would call, limiting beliefs and mindset, right? And just crashing through those limiting beliefs and those doubts of saying, well, okay, I'm not a real estate expert, or, do I have things to share? Like when I started my own podcast, right? A lot of this idea, people talk about like an imposter syndrome of, even though you may have the expertise, like thinking, oh, do I have something important to share? Right? Are people going to listen to me? Things like that. And getting past those doubts to be able to put myself out there. So a lot of it is around getting past your own doubts, being able to put yourself out there, being able to take leaps of faith and risks, right? Because it requires leaps of faith with every new venture that you get into. But ultimately, just being able to, I think, believe in yourself and stay positive are big pieces of it. So, I definitely dealt with my own doubts at times and things like that. But I think having a strong support system around me, having mentors, having education programs and things like that helped me to kind of push through those things and to feel confident and to be able to do what I needed to do to be successful, really.
Yeah, that's a great point, Kent. And the limiting beliefs. I mean, a headhunter recruiter that I knew, this is years ago. This is probably more than 12 years ago. This guy told me, hey, you know what, as you're continuing on your W-2 path and you want to see the next opportunities knock on your door and things like that, you need to, provide some thought leadership out there. You should start writing a blog. I'm like, who wants to hear what I have to say? So, I have a totally different mindset now, where, there are things that I know, and there certainly are expertise that I have. But again, it's, you're right. You got a lot to overcome when you're going down a new path. So,
yeah,
absolutely. Okay. What was one of your first victories on the new path as you transitioned into real estate and left the consulting work behind? What was a memorable victory you had?
Yeah, man, that's a good question. I will, you know what I'll say, because it's just so timely being with you guys, was, one of the first, you guys really gave me one of the first opportunities
Hmm.
to come in on the GP side and be a partner in the deal and help execute the deal and the project. And so that was a big opportunity for me. So thank you guys for that. And
Absolutely.
that really set things. That was a stepping stone that from there things really kind of took off and really have kind of grown, exponentially. And but it was really kind of, you've got to have, um, in many ways, you always have to have people, many times you have to have people kind of give you a shot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And have you. There's always going to be one of the best ways, I guess, to succeed is find people that are more experienced than you and partner up with them and add value in some way, right? And that helps you gain credibility and gain experience and kind of get that first deal, under your belt. And then from there, the world opens up in a totally different way. And then as I started, then the thought leadership platform rolling was really when I started seeing that growth. But kind of having that credibility from the first deal and then that thought leadership platform is really when I started seeing things snowball.
That's great.
Well, Kent, honestly, it's an honor that you say that. So I certainly really appreciate that. And honestly, we, as Bill and I think about things, the way we do things, sometimes we just don't realize the, a positive impact that we might have. And the reason I say that is because we've tried to always, be willing to help somebody else. A lot of people were very gracious with their time and their ideas and thoughts when we were getting started.
Mm-hmm.
And so honestly, I'm thrilled to hear that it was a very great thing for you. So very glad
Absolutely
about that.
Yeah.
So Kent, in your new world that you're on now, your new path, do you have is there anything funny story you can share with us about something that you've experienced in the recent couple of years?
I'm trying to think of a funny one. I think that I feel like we've just been running, kind of so quickly, accomplishing so much. I don't know that it's funny as much, but really just from of a perspective of kind of just having the opportunity to do, you've so many firsts, right? In doing anything new. I think I've had more firsts in the past 2 years than I probably have in my entire life. A first time doing these different things. And, for example, in starting the podcast, I guess with firsts is there's always kind of funny quirks and things that happen. I think with like doing the podcast and just trying to get that figured out with the equipment, with the editing, with everything else. I mean, I think if you go back and listen to some of my earlier ones, they're definitely a little choppy, definitely a little, not quite as professional before I can turn things over to the pros. So now I don't know if I have a specific story, but man, I just looking back, I'm just like,
yeah.
I'm glad I got started, but wow, it's kind of embarrassing when you go back and look at those first videos or those first podcasts and see what that stuff looked like.
Well,
it's all part of it. Yeah.
Yeah. You got to get started, right? It's all about
right.
getting started and just improving through iterations instead of expecting for things to be perfect on the first time.
So I had that saying, always done is better than perfect, right? Because if you're waiting for perfection,
Yeah.
it never gets out there. If you don't do show 1, you'll never do show 100. Where
That's
you
right.
are polished and smooth at it. So it's just, like you said, a iteration over time.
That's right.
Yeah. So Kent, on your journey today, where are you in your new path?
Yeah. So I joined up with a firm last year who I started actually as a passive investor with back in 2016, and built a relationship with the firm. It's Birge Held is the firm, as you said at the beginning. Build a relationship with them through several passive investments over the years. And then as I became active, and started doing my own deals, just kept in contact with them and was approached by one of their principals, Tag Birge, who's become a really close mentor of mine, to come and join them and build a platform or build a business on top of their platform. Because it's a large private equity firm. They've got about $1.5 billion in assets under management. So now I'm leading a line of business for them, acquiring
Nice.
apartments yeah, going through a value add program, kind of implementing our own specific strategy under their umbrella. And we're really focused on acquiring smaller to mid-size properties in the Midwest and the Southeast, properties where, we see mismanagement, properties that are undercapitalized, properties that are just undervalued, and we can come in and buy them at a value and provide some significant returns. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a niche strategy, looking for those diamonds in the rough, buying largely from mom and pop owners. And yeah, it's been fun to execute. We've, because they are smaller properties, we're relying heavily on technology, heavily on kind of a different management approach, more of like a scattered site approach, more remote management, heavily, like I said, leveraging technology to be able to do that. So it's been very innovative, and just able to continue to innovate and learn a lot, which I think goes back to my consulting years of, this idea of constant improvement, right? So we're implementing all this stuff, putting these processes into place and developing this system to be able to manage these smaller properties at scale and be really efficient at it. So it's been exciting to see it continue to develop. Yeah.
That's
nice.
Great. Yeah.
Well, so Kent, I imagine that comes with some, in a way, I guess you could say, education from the resident base. That things are gonna be done differently, guys. You're gonna pay electronically now instead of bringing down your money order to the office, kind of thing, mm-hmm. or something like that. I imagine is that a fair statement? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that, in the learning curve, I think is different kind of based on demographics, mm-hmm. Probably primarily just age range of where people are and how kind of used to technology that they are. For example, we're putting in smart locks on our properties that allow people to use their phone to enter, enter their apartments, mm-hmm. or control access to the building, which allows us to have management efficiencies because we can control access remotely. It's also a benefit for the resident because they can hold their phone up to their door and they can go inside. They don't have to worry about keys or leaving their keys on the kitchen table, anything like that. But there are folks that's a big adjustment for, right? And so, just making sure, I think that's a big lesson learned for us, is just being very proactive on the communication. We refine it each time. We say, okay, we could have done this a little better. We could do that a little better. We need to get out in front of this a little more. Mm-hmm. So, we're improving every time, but the education is a big piece of it. We don't require folks to use their phones. We do have a fob option so they can, use a fob and hold up.
I was going to say, it probably doesn't work.
Have a smartphone.
It probably doesn't work with a flip phone, right? Like the old
It
razors.
Doesn't work with the flip phone. No. You got like the old Nokia still. No. Exactly. But, it's, but I think, if done in the right way, I do think it adds value to the residents. Mm-hmm. And I think that, in many ways, we're putting cameras on the property, mm-hmm. With video monitoring. So there's better security, the access control, especially if there's common area entrances where folks can, they can let friends in remotely. They could let delivery folks in, they can also control some of that remotely through an app. And it really is mm-hmm. nice. Versus having to run down, and let somebody in and kind of go through that process. And so, I think, and then layering on top of that things that are really adding value. That's kind of the first thing, but we're implementing a self-guided tour process right now to allow folks to come and tour properties on their own time without having to come in contact physically with someone. And I think that's been a huge benefit, be able to extend our leasing hours, not have to rely on a property manager's schedule. Mm-hmm. And so, things like that are just, I think are what are really going to move the needle for us as far as management efficiencies and also the ability to just, keep our units occupied.
Nice. Very nice.
Are you guys vertically integrated or you use third-party management?
No, vertically integrated.
Okay,
so
excellent.
We actually have property management internal and then construction internal as well. So all the construction projects are managed internally, which is a really nice addition and just creates really a seamless transition from as we're acquiring into the rehab process.
Mm-hmm.
That's excellent. Yeah.
Very nice. So Kent, where does the road take you from here? Where do you go from here?
Well, really, it's all just about scaling up now. So the
Right.
foundation has been laid. I mean, whether you're talking about our acquisition strategy, which we've acquired 2 properties, and then we're acquiring the third here, at the end of this week. So
Mm-hmm.
March 12th, depending on when
Yeah.
this airs.
Good.
So just continuing to scale up from a property standpoint. Same thing with the thought leadership platform. So with the podcast, with my blog, with the website, everything that I'm doing, just continue to scale up, continue to add value, continue to provide more resources for folks out there that are trying to learn,
Mm-hmm.
how to invest and how to do it the right way.
That's
Awesome.
great. Yeah. Well, Kent, what's something you've recently implemented in your business that's help you toward those goals?
Yeah, I would say I've been getting help more, which
Mhm.
and what I mean by that is starting to really systematize things to the point where you can offload them to an assistant, whether it's a VA or somebody physical, but starting to take some of the manual tasks that I've been doing and really offload those to give me time to focus on kind of bigger and better things. So, just in the past 6 months, really hired three different VAs to focus in different areas
Mm-hmm.
on different aspects. In the past year, I've outsourced the kind of the back end of the podcast, which, as you guys
Mm-hmm.
know, it takes a ton of work to a professional editing team. So just creating scale in those ways to allow us to focus more on strategy and more on just higher level things.
I think it's so critical. Everybody gets, and for entrepreneurs, I think you're, kind of a hands-on person typically anyhow. You want to get in, you want to learn everything, you want to be
Mm-hmm.
in the beginning, you need to understand, all facets of your business. But at
Yeah.
some point you get stuck working in your business, not on your business. You're not growing. You're doing all the, like you said, things that aren't the highest and best use of your time that you can offload and focus more on the growth strategy where you want to take the company. Yeah, I think it's,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think that's the part of the continuous learning process. Keep growing, evolving, finding more efficient ways to do things, figure out where you can offload those tasks, use your time better, and on the strategy side, etc. So very nice.
Yeah.
So Kent, what advice would you give somebody who's considering making a path change?
Excuse me.
Sure.
Well, I think so that's a good question. I mean, I think that there's a lot of advice. One is, so just like very basic as you're thinking about, making that decision. I think that you've got to understand why you're doing it. All right. You've got to have a strong why, because that's the thing that's going to push you through the tough times. I mean, you can only do so much through willpower. Willpower only lasts so long. And willpower is like the push, right? Like you're pushing yourself to not, I don't know, not eat chocolate because you want
Right.
to
Stay
because you want to lose weight, right? But that only lasts as long as somebody puts a delicious chocolate bar, some ice cream or something in front of you, right? Because those because the short-term gain is viewed more than what you're trying to achieve long-term. So you've got to have a really strong why. Like, just go back to the same example. If you're not eating chocolate because you want to lose weight, well, why do you want to lose weight? Because you want to be around and live longer for your grandkids, right? Just as
Mm-hmm.
a simple example. Well, then that's a strong reason that will continue to pull you instead of pushing, kind of you pushing yourself when things get difficult, right? So it's the same thing
Mm-hmm.
with trying to make a leap or start a business or do anything. It's why are you really doing it? And that why has to be more than just make more money. That money is a function of doing what you're doing, right? But it's got to be something that's really going to motivate you when times get hard. It's got to be something that really, I think this is like a Tony Robbins tip. It's got to be something that has an emotional attachment to it. So it's something that when you say it, you got to feel emotion. Otherwise it's not going to work.
absolutely. Well, Ken, what's the best way for people to reach out to you and get a hold of you, learn more about what you're currently doing?
Yeah, so there's a couple great ways. One is my website, kentritter.com. Continuing to build that out with new content for investors. You can learn more about me, and you can learn, how to invest with us. It's kind of all there. It's meant to be a one-stop shop for folks. The other is my own podcast. It's Ritter on Real Estate. And it's the tagline is we teach you how to passively invest like a pro. So it's all about, how to be a better investor, how to make better investment decisions. And yeah, just continue to educate yourself, right? We talk about continuous learning a couple of times here. That's really what it's all about.
Right.
Absolutely. Well, great, Kent. We really appreciate it. We'd like to thank you for being a guest on the Road Less Traveled show. Really appreciate the discussion and wish you continued success.
Thanks, guys. Yeah. Thanks, Bill. Thanks, Richard. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So we'd also really like to thank our audience. We greatly appreciate you listening. Thanks for tuning in. And we also like to thank our sponsors, including Park Capital Partners. Please certainly feel free to reach out to Bill and myself. That's parkcapitalpartnersllc.com, parkcapitalpartnersllc.com. And thanks for listening. Remember, the road less traveled may be calling you. We recommend that you listen and take action. Thanks, Ken.
Thanks, Ken.